We have been thinking about the importance of global trends and the movement of business and economics, and many of the discussions around the world have moved toward Asia and to the countries of Asia, of the discussions among the countries of Asia. And so as Asia Society, as the leading institution who thinks about the issues that are business and education and arts and culture and policy in Asia, we thought it was important that we move the center of gravity and the discussions. And so in our being co-chairs, we embody this new approach, and we think it is innovative, and we are planning a trip together. So in doing so, we will begin to explore what this could mean in operational terms for Asia Society.
I think most people in the world today recognizes that the world is a changing place, and indeed, in many ways, a changed place. In the past, it was the United States and everybody else. I think increasingly, the rise of Asia, first Japan, then China, and then now India, has made the world a much more multipolar place. And the Asia Society, the board, I think, is very foresighted. Perhaps we may be the very first organization, especially not-for-profit organization, which act upon it to formulate a structure which recognizes the partnership between the two sides of the Pacific. After all, there will be a lot more interaction between the two sides in the coming years and decades. And I think the Asia Society is really, really well positioned, perhaps more than most, if not all, organizations I know of, to take advantage of that situation and play a critical role in many areas to enhance understanding. So we need a management structure that can facilitate that can make it work better. And I think the fact that they came up with a two co-chairs is not just two co-chairs. It is two co-chairs, one on this side, one on the other side. I think that is rather unique. And Henrietta and I have known each other for a long time. I certainly have tremendous respect for her. I'm sure that this will work very, very well. And I think it should serve the Asia Society well.
If I could add, we now have 5 centers in Asia and 5 in the United States. So it's a particularly unique moment in our organizational history that Ronnie and I really want to think about how we can utilize this in a way that is important and meaningful and makes an impact on the world with our ideas and concepts and programs. We're also thinking about the idea of more global programs that can work in multi-centers. So this is all a new approach, and we'll have some time together in the upcoming trip to think about it with many of our Asia Society centers and friends around the world. Well, fundamentally, the Asia Society has been focused on mutual understandings, and I think that remains an extremely important area. It has been a role in which we have thought about Americans learning about Asia. And I think the need for that is all the more urgent in our current time. After the economic slowdown in the world, many Americans lost their jobs and began to face an economic future that looked very uncertain. And sometimes we think that it is related to others in some other part of the world who may be taking jobs from us. But it's quite the opposite. It is that together we will be stronger and can bring more prosperity around the world to each other. So our basic notion when John Rockefeller began this society has been reinforced in today's world. So we want to do that work of mutual understanding, but we also want it among the many nations in Asia, because it is a booming, growing area that Ronnie knows extremely well, and their connections to each other will be equally important.
I think the Asia Society is somewhat unique in this respect. That is, we've been at it for 55 years. that means we have fantastic connections, network, friends all over Asia. I can hardly think of another organization, a non-profit organization, that has that kind of a reach and that kind of depth. I have, over the last 20-some years, been associated with the Asia Society, been on many trips together with our president, Vishaka Desai, previous to that, Nick Platt, and then previous to that, Bob Oxnam. And when I travel in Asia, I'm truly amazed the connectivity that is within the Asia Society family. I cite you one example. About almost 20 years ago, maybe 17, 18 years ago, I was interested to know more about India. I had no business there, but I'm just interested in the country. I think that India is going to be an important country, and so I want to know more. Well, the Asia Society opened all the doors for me. Now everybody thinks that, wow, Ronnie knows everybody, both in the private sector and in the government. Well, I built those relationships initially through Asia Society. This was one of two organizations that 17, 18 years ago was able to open so many doors for me. And so I think the Asia Society can connect people probably as good as any other organization. And it's really the connectivity that is necessary to enhance understanding that Henrietta was mentioning. And so I think Asia Society is somewhat uniquely positioned, I think, to do that. Another dimension is that unlike many other excellent organizations which specialize in a particular field, their policy, education, art, or whatever, they're very, very good, many of them. But we are an organization that cut across all that. We cover the gamut. And a lot of these are interconnected. And I think that in that regard, we are also somewhat unique. And hence, I think our ability to do really some good work to enhance understanding between the two parts of the Pacific.
This is the time of a rising Asia. Its importance economically, politically, socially, culturally is, I think, on everyone's mind in the world. So it is part of the sweeping trend that Ronnie refers to. A society that has focused for many decades on Asia and Americans thinking together about ways that the world can be better and that we can learn from each other and that we can interconnect is it's a very important responsibility that we carry, but it's also a wonderful opportunity. And there are now many organizations in the nonprofit and for-profit arena who are operating in the United States and in Asia. So for them to have places where they can convene, they can congregate, they can exchange ideas and connect is very important. So it's a time of opportunity for the Asia Society.
When our founder, John D. Rockefeller III, 55 years ago roughly, founded this organization, the world was a relatively simple one. You have the United States as the center, and then like a center with all the spokes coming in. Today, the world is a different place. With the rise of Asia, I don't think that Asia will replace the United States, but certainly it will supplement and should work together with the United States. So with these two parts of the world being really two out of the three most important, I would say, at least most dynamic and advanced economies, societies, I think the need today is no less than 55 years ago when our founder founded this organization. So I'm truly excited that now is the time when Asia Society can take its place in this new world and be a factor in bettering the relationship across the Pacific.
Well, it's great to be friends. We were just talking to Chip Kay, our predecessor as chair of the Asia Society, and his first thought for us was that it was most important that we were friends because it allows us to think together and to think in a context. We've also both been involved with Asia Society on and off for the past 20 and more years. And so we carry history with us, history and friendship, and I think they're both very important. But we will try to be one for the Asia Society, but to also think of ways that there can be synergy out of the fact that we are living, usually, when we're not on airplanes, 12 hours apart, so that we can pick up each other's thinking in our part of the world.
You know, Henrietta, I still remember one of the very first meetings we met. It was in the United States, and I was giving a talk of sorts, and our mutual friend came to me and said, "You should meet Henrietta." And that was almost 20 years ago. And Henrietta is somebody I respect tremendously. And also, I think it's important that personality-wise, it's really, I think, very easy to work with, if I may so say. And, you know, I recognize that we live 12 hours apart, and so it has its strength, as Henrietta mentioned. It also presents some challenges, but both of us, well, at least I am workaholic, and I'm very impressed when I arranged a schedule for our coming 2-3 weeks, traveling the world to visit the 10 centers, that Henrietta, I twice asked Henrietta, are you sure you want to have as tight a schedule as the one that I'm used to? And I'm surprised. Henrietta came back twice and said, no problem. So I think that I really look forward to working together with Henrietta. I think we'll work very, very well. Hopefully it will mean that the Asia Society will be even more effective in the coming years.